I'm the amateur logician from amateurlogician.com. We're going to work through an indirect proof. This example is from Introduction to Logic by Harry J. Gensler. It's an excellent textbook. I highly recommend it. This is page 160. Note that the argument we're going to do here requires rules of inference or rules of replacement that are not found in the textbook First Course of Mathematical Logic. But in any case, we can do it using our other tools we've developed on other videos. In any case, we have the argument, if God changes, then he changes for the worse or for the better. If he changes for the better, then he isn't perfect. If he's perfect, then he doesn't change for the worse. Conclusion, therefore, if God is perfect, he doesn't change. Okay, so let's write out our premises first. So for line 1, we have if God changes, then he changes for the worse or for the better. That's just a premise. Line 2, we have if he changes for the better, then he isn't perfect, so not P. Premise. Line 3, if he's perfect, then he doesn't change for the worse, so not W. Premise. And with this, we want to prove that, therefore, if God is perfect, then he doesn't change. So if P, then not C. We want to prove that. We're going to use an indirect proof. And so, let's just contradict that conclusion. We're going to assume the contradictory of that conclusion. So for line 4, we'll say not, parentheses, if P, then not C, close parentheses. And this is an assumption. And as an assumption, so to speak, we will quarantine it, and for our purposes, we will just place it in a box. We're not affirming that that is the case or it is not the case, so to speak. We're just making this assumption and then trying to derive the consequences of assuming that. So what can we do here? If we're going to contradict a conditional, it's often a good idea to turn that conditional into a disjunction. And we can do that with what is sometimes called implication. So we're going to turn this if P, then not C into a disjunction. So we can derive not, parentheses, not P or not C by implication line 4. Under quarantine, based on that assumption. For line 6, let's apply De Morgan's law. So we can get not P and not C. De Morgan, line 5. So we have, so to speak, distributed that negation, but we have to remember that we're going to flip a disjunction into a conjunction in that case. We can clean this up for line 7 with double negation to get P and C. Double negation, line 6, again under quarantine based on our assumption. Notice, for instance, that we have this P here. Line 3, we have if P, then not W. So we can do a modus ponens inference eventually. So for line 8, let's just get P by the simplification of line 7. And then for 9, we can do our modus ponens to get not W. Modus ponens, lines 3 and 8. Again, under quarantine. Moreover, notice that we have on line 7 the C, and C appears on the first line to this conditional. So we can get the modus ponens inference to get W or B. So let's be very careful here. For 10, let's first get C and P by the commutative rule with line 7, and then we'll simplify for 11 to get C, simplification 10. And then we'll apply that modus ponens inference. We have the C, we have that line 1, so we can get for 12 W or B by modus ponens, lines 1 and 11, again under quarantine. Note that line 9 has this not W, and here we have W or B, so therefore B. Hence for 13, we can get B because we have a disjunctive syllogism with lines 9 and 12. If we scroll up here, we have B, but notice that line 2, the antecedent is B, and then you can get that not P by modus ponens. So for line 14, we can get not P by modus ponens with lines 2 and 13. So we have that B, we have line 2, we have if B then not P, B therefore not P. But notice now we have a contradiction because line 14 we have this not P, in line 8 we have this P. Let's combine them, so to speak. For 15 we can get P and not P by our conjunction rule with lines 8 and 14. And so we have reached a contradiction based on this assumption. We go down and get this contradiction. So outside of quarantine, for line 16, we can say it is not the case, that it is not the case that if P then not C, because we have an indirect proof or reductio ad absurdum proof with lines 4 to 15. Now let's clean this up. We have a double negative there. So for 17, we'll say therefore if P then not C by double negation of line 16. And that concludes the proof. Given these premises here, it logically follows that if God is perfect, then he doesn't change. I hope this video has been helpful to you.